Hey guys, I'm Jason White. This is my channel Weird Reads. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and liking and commenting, of course. This is my my book haul for October, and I kind of went overboard again. I didn't get too many physical copies of books. I got a lot of ebooks though. My God, did I get a lot of ebooks. A lot of them were on sale, so I was lucky in that. And so let's get into it. I'm going to start with the physical books. I got Jonathan Jan's the Siren and the Spectre, and I'm currently reading it. I love that cover. It's really very simple, but it's also, quite beautiful because I love the night. But I'm actually about 2/3 the way through this book, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's really good, a really good haunted house story. In case you don't know what it's about a writer who writes, you know what, there's actually a lot of weird parallels between this book and that new Netflix show, The Haunting on Hill House. And they're completely unintentional, I'm sure. They're both released at the same time. There's always, there's sometimes that kind of synchronicity that happens. And this book came out, I forget when, I think it was August or September. And the Netflix series came out at the beginning of October. It's not the same story by any means either. There's just some similarities, like the writer who writes about, he's a skeptic and he writes about haunted houses, and he always tries to debunk the haunted house. And this one, he's not having such a good time debunking it, to say the least. Early on in the month, I got into my first Gillian Flynn. I actually watched the show first for Sharp Objects, and I completely fell in love with that show. So I went and I bought the book, and I read it very quickly, and I enjoyed it a lot. This is part of a haul, but it's also, I guess, part of the wrap-up. But I'll talk about this more in the wrap-up. Keelan Patrick Burke is a writer that I've known about for a long time. I've read 2 or 3 of his books, but I want to read more, and so I decided to pick up Blankie. Now this, I'm going to read the synopsis for this. In the wake of his infant daughter's tragic death, Steve Brannigan is struggling to keep himself together. Estranged from his wife, who refuses to be inside the house where the unthinkable happened, and unable to work, he seeks solace in an endless parade of old sitcoms and a bottle of bourbon. Yeah, I've been guilty of that. Until one night he hears a sound from his daughter's old room. A room now stripped bare of anything that identified it as hers, except for her security blanket, affectionately known as Blankie. Blankie, old and frayed, with its antiquated patchwork of badly sewn rabbits and with black button eyes, who appear to be staring at the viewer. Blankie, purchased from a strange old man with an antique stall selling baby clothes at a discount. The presence of Blankie in his dead daughter's room heralds nothing short of unspeakable nightmare that threatens to take away what little light remains in Steve's shattered world. Because his daughter loved Blankie so much, he buried it with her. So that sounds pretty spooky. Moving along, I also got this, and I've only been able to read 1, maybe 2 short stories from it so far. Happy Halloween, by the way. I'm recording this on Halloween, hoping to release it on Halloween. And, of course, I'm speaking of the Mammoth Book of Halloween Stories. There's one reason why I bought this book is because of the names in it. I mean, obviously, but I'm a really big fan of Steve Rasnick Thames' short stories. And so I almost always try to buy stories of his when I see them in anthologies, and he's been in a lot of anthologies, so I obviously haven't been able to get them all. Alright, so moving on to the ebooks. I found this one on sale. I think I saw it on BookBub. And that's The Force by Don Winslow. I always like cop stories. I don't know why. I've been watching that show lately, The Force. Or, no, sorry, The Rookie with Nathan Fillion. It's actually pretty good. I'm enjoying it so far anyway. I also picked up Slithers by W. Mortensen. Also picked up Mass Hysteria by Michael Patrick Hicks. Michael Patrick Hicks is a pretty big horror reviewer as well on Twitter. He has his own blog and whatnot. It'd be cool if he started a channel, probably. But I saw that that Mass Hysteria was on for, well, relatively cheap anyway, and so I picked it up. And I got those books on my iBook account. I like reading iBooks because they actually tell you how many pages you have left within the size of print that you have selected for the ebook itself. So if the book itself is 400 pages, but you have the fonts so big it becomes 900 pages of what you're reading, it'll tell you how many are left in the chapter and how many are left in the book itself, and that's something I'm going to buy that because that's always how I've read. I need to know how much is left. I don't know why, I just do. So these next books are the books I bought for my Kindle. And the first one I got, actually I saw it on sale. I already have this book. It's House of Windows. I found this ebook on sale for like $1.99, and it's so much easier for me to read ebooks because I read a lot at work, and I can't always have a book with me at work, but I can have my cell phone, and sometimes trying to read in bed is a pain in the ass because because of my work schedule, I'm always going to bed at different times than my wife. And so I don't want to be putting on the light on her. She doesn't like it. So ebook is almost always preferable, even though ultimately I prefer the physical copy. It's just nothing replaces having an actual book in your hands. Anyways, I'm going to read you the synopsis for this. It's John Langan. It's one of his first books, published in the mid-aughts to late-aughts, I think. And it's been blurbed by Peter Straub, of all people. So, for the last few years, Veronica Croydon has been at the center of a scandal. First as the younger woman for whom her famous professor left his wife, and then as his apparent widow. When a writer staying at the same vacation home as Veronica has the chance to hear her story, he jumps at it. What follows takes him to the dark heart of a father's troubled relationship with his only son, in a story that stretches from a college town in the Hudson Valley to the battlefields on Afghanistan, from post 9/11 America to the height of Victorian England. It is a story that leads inexorably to the Belvedere House, the home that Veronica shares with her husband, within whose walls a father's terrible words to his son echo and gain in awful force. So that sounds like it's very epic, honestly. John Langan is a fantastic writer. So I don't mind switching back and forth between the physical book and the ebook, so I'm looking forward to starting that at some point, especially since from approximately September to New Year's, I almost read exclusively horror books. There's a reason for that. It's just the time of year for it, honestly. And, the British, I believe, used to have fireside readings during Christmas Eve. And they would tell ghost stories on Christmas Eve by the fire. And I think that's awesome. So, so I like to read books like this time of year. Of course, I read horror books all year round, but I tend to broaden my reading a little bit more throughout the rest of the year. I also got The Sorrows by Jonathan Janz. This is one of his first books published, and their Flaming Tree Press is a new horror publishing company. They publish a whole bunch of books, but they also have a pretty big horror section. And its editor is Don Diarra of Samhain and Leisure Books, and so he's republishing his backlog with them, and The Sorrows is one of them. It comes out November the 30th, and NetGalley, I got it off NetGalley, thanks to Flaming Tree Press for sending it to me. I'm going to read that and hopefully have a review for that for you guys before the book's release. I also picked up and read Mr. Jack by Chris Kosarich. I hope I pronounced that right. Glass Slipper Dreams Shattered by Downguy Gam. I hope I pronounced that right as well. I also got Skullface Boy by Chad Lutsky, which I read, or not read, I watched a review by Edward Lauren, and that got me interested in it. Twin Lakes Autumn Fires by Michelle Garza and Melissa Layson, and I'm looking forward to that one. I've been itching to get to it, but I've been stuck in so many other things that I feel obliged to read first, but I will be getting to that. And I also recently got from Joe over at Crystal Lake Publishing, I got Fantastic Tales of Terror. Now this is a really cool anthology. Just let me grab my laptop here. Now, first of all, the introduction is written by Tony Todd. That's the guy who's Candyman. He's been in a lot of other movies, but I think he's always going to be remembered as Candyman. That's freaking awesome. It also has stories by Tim Wagner, Mercedes M. Yardley, two of my favorites, Kevin J. Anderson, Elizabeth Massey, Bev Vincent, Stephanie M. Whitovich, Christopher Golden, Richard Chismar, Michael Paul Gonzalez, John Palisano, Lisa Morton, Jess Landry, Vince Liaguno, sorry if I butchered that, Bubba Hotep by Joe R. Lansdale is in this anthology, so if you haven't read it, here's your chance. Gorilla My Dreams, I love that title, by Jonathan Mayberry. There's stories by Michael Bailey, David Wellington, Bentley Little, Jessica Marie Baumgartner, Mort Castle, Paul Moore, Jeff Strand, and the almighty Neil Gaiman. So I'm really looking forward to reading that because, well, it's Crystal Lake Publishing. They always put out really great work. And I also got their book, Tales from the Lake Volume 5, which is edited by Kenneth W. Kane, who's an awesome guy. I've talked to him on my podcast. And Crystal Lake Publishing does this almost annually. It's not quite as annual as it was when they first started, but Tales from the Lake sort of started out as like horror stories by the lakeside. Now it's just branched out into anything goes type horror. The last 2 or 3 anyway. So Crystal Lake Publishing is releasing this Friday from this recording, which is October 31st, and it's Wednesday, so I guess November 2nd is Tales from the Lake Volume 5. This is going to be a really awesome lineup, and this is why I fought to find the TOC. It's going to have a story by Gemma Files, Lucy A. Snyder, Tim Wagner, Gene O'Neill, Paul Michael Anderson, Craig Walwork, Stephanie M. Whitovich, Allison Pang, Michelle Ann King, Corey Cohn, Jonah Buck, Lucy Taylor, Laura Blackwell, Marge Simon, and Robert Stahl, Jason Seasmore, Megan Akuri, Peter Mark May, Lane Waldman, Joanna Peripinski, sorry if I butchered that, Samuel Marzioli, and Andy Rawson. There's just some really, really good names in there, especially the first 3, 4, 5. Gemma Files is always great. Thank you for watching. My wrap-up is coming soon. And I totally butchered I totally butchered this episode. Alright, so thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please hit the subscribe button, comment, like the video, and we will see you again in the next video, and please keep being creative.